want to shift gears just a little bit and start thinking about the M1, M2 versus future combat system decision in the same way that a family thinks about, should I buy, hold, or sell my used automobile? When should I buy a new one? When should I lease? When should I invest in repairs to the old one? And this chart simply sets up that dialogue. If you consider the conventional Cold War threat model, where our threat was committing to incremental improvements in their main combat systems on the conventional side, and each of those fleets had a certain life expectancy, we can analyze that and determine, let's say, what the enemy's capability curve looked like. And then our task was to ensure that we fielded fleets like the M60 and the M1, M2 that gave us a relative combat power advantage over the enemy. And so what mattered in that kind of a model was the relative capability difference between us and the threat, and not necessarily the absolute capability that we're buying. All along the way in the life cycle of M1 and M2, we found ways to make the business case to improve our capability by technological inserts, so improvements across the fleet. M1, M1A1, M1A2, and M1A2 SEP, all of which extend the life of the vehicle, add more capability to it, and preserves the capability advantage between us and the threat. There was a time when it made sense to retire the M60 fleet and then convert to the blue line, representing M1, M2. As we started thinking about the total life cycle capability of M1 and M2, we recognized there was a need to develop the tank after next, if you will. Call that the future combat system, if you will. Stryker came along as an effort to bridge the gap between an aging M1, M2 fleet and an undefined so far future combat system, designed as a medium-weight, rapidly deployable combat platform that gave us a persistent competitive advantage against perhaps a declining conventional threat. In the future, we're going to be facing, and we're facing now, of course, recapitalization decisions that say, at what point does it make sense to invest money in refitting and resetting an M1, M2 fleet to give us additional years in the fleet that were not originally designed into the program, but which now might make economic sense to give us a capability that allows us to develop the FCS in the future. We'll run into the same challenges in the future with Stryker. These decisions are an awful lot closer now based on the number of op-tempo miles that we've added to the fleets based on OIF, OEF. The second part of this discussion, though, gets back to the idea of what happens to this sort of economic analysis when the threat morphs faster than the conventional threat did in the Cold War, basically the entire post-World War II period. If the enemy's capabilities don't lend themselves to graphing in such a 30-year manner, what do I have to do to my change management system and my leadership system that allows me to adapt to that more rapidly changing environment? Maybe the kinds of business decisions that we're comfortable making, that were designed by nature to make, are no longer appropriate for the type of force that we need to field.